Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Dr.SHIVA Ayyadurai. As many of you know, I'm running for President of the United States. I recommend everyone go up online to shivaforpresident.com and get a bumper sticker. As you know, the mainstream media and the elites, what I call the swarm, wants to make a bottoms-up movement invisible, and someone like me in our movement for truth, freedom, and health is massively dangerous to the swarm because we're not relying on them. We, in fact, have no regard for them because we know who they are. Today's video, as I did last week, which we got close to 1.5 million views in spite of all the shadow banning. I'm sure without the shadow banning, we probably would have gotten about 100 million views. But with the shadow banning, we still got about 1% of that, about 1.5 million views. But today, we're going to be talking about how the swarm kills you. And as you know, I'm a systems biologist, a PhD out of MIT, but I'm also an activist. I've run for Senate as an activist. It was our campaign for US Senate that first exposed Fauci. We're the first ones to call an end to the lockdowns. Why Robert, as I call him, Booby F. Kennedy, guy can barely talk, okay? I don't even know why the guy, as Owen Benjamin says, why this guy's even running for president. But regardless, he's part of the swarm, okay? The swarm is actually reorganizing with people like him and others to manipulate people so they, once again, bow down to these morons and you don't build a bottoms-up movement. But what we really need to understand today is I'm going to walk you through step by step as a systems biologist, as a systems scientist, as an engineering systems guy, to walk you through how the swarm, Democrats and Republicans, the obvious establishment and the not so obvious establishment, work together to actually kill you. So we're going to go from their policies all the way down to the molecular systems to show you how they're affecting molecular pathways in your body. We're going to cover 4 of them to actually kill you. And after you've seen the first video on the swarm, and after you see this today, you will recognize why we need to build a bottoms-up movement, why all of you have an incredible opportunity with my running for president, because all of these other, frankly, very selfish, unpatriotic, foolish guys watch which way the wind blows. They will never do what's right. Robert F. Kennedy supported lockdowns, lock, stock, and barrel with Fauci. After he saw all of my work, he copied my work and created and did the book, The Real Anthony Fauci. We really need to talk about the real Robert F. Kennedy or someone like Trump who's watched my swarm video last week and suddenly he's also supposedly fighting for children. Anyway, but let's begin by reviewing the quick diagram that I did yesterday. I recommend everyone go look at the swarm video. And that video, if you remember, was the swarm, how the few control the many. And I put the copyright symbol here. Some people, one person was like, why are you doing that? Well, because I've had, over the last many years, people just copy my stuff. They don't even credit it. So if you do attempt to do this, I will sue you because I'm not going to let people get away with stealing our work, stealing the hard work we do. But anyway, the swarm, how the few control the many. Now, what I discussed here last week was we looked at the elites here, about 10,000 people right here, and I drew that out. And I said, how is it these people end up controlling the 8 billion people over here, right? And they shun and they make sure leaders like myself, people like Malcolm X, people like you who come from the masses are suppressed. And what we talked about is that the swarm, the elites over here are actually a swarm, okay? And they're not any one person. They're the 600 billionaires. They're the 100 academics. They're the NGOs, 100 CEOs who head up many of the major nonprofits, Clinton Global Initiative, et cetera. We also talked about they're the 100 senators, the prime ministers, the advisors to the government. We talked about their think tanks like the Belfer School, the Stanford Internet Observatory, CEOs, big pharma, the investment companies, JP Morgan, who, by the way, just paid a ton of money because they were working with Epstein, the Fed, central banks. And then we said these people are fronted by Hollywood celebrities over here, the media companies, social media influencers like this dumbass Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, who will never put me on. He watches everything I do, but he'll put on the not so obvious establishment. And over here we talked about this swarm, the head of the swarm that you see is the obvious establishment of obviously the Republicans and Democrats, what we call the uniparty. But the more insidious are the people like Trump and Kennedy And, in the older times, people like Gandhi or MLK, who actually are brought in, who speak the words as though they're fighting for you, but these people are all scumbags. They actually party with all of these people. They're incestuous. They work together. And what these people do, particularly the not so obvious establishment, and you're seeing it happen right now with the massive promotion that Trump and Kennedy are getting, because it's directly in opposition to our movement for truth, freedom, and health. They are the false heroes that they input to the 8 billion people. They push propaganda, they push policies. And the goal of this effort is to make sure you're fat, you're dumb, you're unhealthy, you're ignorant, you're happy and entertained, but most importantly, you're divided, you're isolated, disconnected, and helpless. And above all, they want you to look to them back here for their heroes. People, this is why they're massively promoting Kennedy, when the guy's the biggest scumbag on the planet. The guy can barely talk, but he's the one who endorsed Hillary Clinton over in the obvious establishment 3 times. He's the one who supported lockdowns. He's the one who said that anyone who's and promoted the climate scam. And if you do not support the climate scam, you should be locked up. This guy is dangerous. The entire Kennedy family is a bunch of mafia. They belong to all of this. So anyone who's taken in by Booby F and Kennedy Jr., you really have to have your head checked. And there's a moron, a quote unquote investigative citizen journalist called the Chief Nerd, who is a shill for Kennedy. Watch out for this guy. And then you have Trump running this indictment. Nothing's ever going to happen to him. It's all part of the show. And again, both of these people and the obvious establishment are milking people, milking money from the everyday people to support the scam. But that's what we discussed yesterday or last week. We did a detailed diagram, and we said as they get people into this state, and ultimately they are creating dysfunctions, obesity, endocrine disruption, cancer, and death. And the lifespan, which should be going like this in the rest of the industrialized nations, is going like this. They love you. They want you to die sooner. If you want to live long and prosper, you better recognize the only game in town that's going to fight for you is me and the Campaign for Truth, Freedom, and Health and Shiva for President. It's just a fact. They want to kill you, and they're killing your children younger. So that's what we covered yesterday. What we're going to focus on today is how the swarm here induces policies that actually at the molecular level lead to all of these dysfunctions. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we go to that, I want to just take a quick break, and we're going to play for you the Shiva for President video. And we're going to start that right now. I want all of you to recognize that you finally have one of you from here who's going to fight for you and is the only one who has earned all those degrees, worked his butt off, didn't get, doesn't have the luxury of spitting in a policeman's face like this Booby Kennedy or the Kennedys who kill and murder and rape people and get away with it. I've lived an honorable life. You live an honorable life. You deserve someone like me. So stop getting compelled by the same old theater. So let me play my campaign video so you understand better who I am.
Who would have ever thought I'd be running for president of the United States of America? I was born a low-caste untouchable in India's caste system, a system of aristocracy, oppression, and racism. My name is Dr.SHIVA Ayyadurai. I'm an MIT PhD, a Fulbright scholar, a scientist, engineer, entrepreneur, and inventor. My family and I left India to come to America on my 7th birthday. I grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of New Jersey, playing baseball, mowing lawns, painting houses, and coding software. My friends and neighbors are blacks, Italians, Irish, people of all races. As a 14-year-old, I wrote 50,000 lines of software code to create the world's first email system and was awarded the first U.S. copyright for email, recognizing me as its official inventor at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I did that long before I ever came to MIT, revealing that big innovations can occur anytime, any place, by anybody. Growing up, I saw politicians dividing us by race and religion in both America and India, to have us fighting each other while they remained safe in their gated communities and in their playgrounds of Hollywood, Martha's Vineyard, and Silicon Valley. I'm a fighter. I fought racism and exposed their imperialist wars, fought for workers, and put my life on the line against global corruption. I never wanted to run for political office. All that changed when I saw working Americans as never before being duped by the establishment and the not-so-obvious establishment. Across left and right, we were being sold out and made to forget why we came to America and why America existed. Lawyers, academics, billionaires, celebrities, and politicians, elites, Clintons, Kennedys, Bidens, Obamas, Bushes, black and white have hijacked America. They printed trillions for their friends. They delivered crumbling infrastructure, corruption, and racism. They've transferred trillions to themselves, dividing black and white, fear-mongering, and fake science. Lockdowns and censorship, dirty air, food, and water, pushing drugs upon us, making us sicker. We've been sold out. One set of rules for them and another for us. We deserve a warrior with a history of courage in putting everything on the line for you, who believes in you, not them, who has created a movement bottoms up for truth, freedom, health. I've exposed their lies at the right time, never waiting until it was popular. I've exposed their false gods who exist to lead you back to them. I've exposed their fake science of lockdowns and masking and provided you solutions to fight them and win and protect your immune system, saving millions. I exposed Fauci, galvanized the Fire Fauci campaign when others remained silent. When they stole our election, we sued the government and Twitter in our historic 2020 federal lawsuit, exposing in bare view the government and big tech censorship infrastructure, the unholy alliance between government and social media companies. Where was Elon and his grifters? They stood by the sidelines and did nothing. They did not use their megaphones to help us when it could have made a big difference. Now our movement grows for truth, freedom, health, independent of all of them. Every day millions are learning the science of systems, the knowledge the elites do not want you to have, so you may learn how to think, stand up, and fight, independent of the establishment of left and right and their fake heroes. Now it's time for you to join the movement, to win back America, to win back truth, win back freedom, win back your health. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. This race is about you. This race is about truth, freedom, health versus power, profit, control. We've had enough. They think we'll fall in line and vote again for their lawyers, celebrities, billionaires, and chosen ones from above. We choose our heroes from below, from the rank and file, who do what is right at the right time, not when it's convenient and popular. They can never represent us. What America needs is a movement by the working people, for the working people, who are educated, organized, decentralized, and fight for independence from their systems of control. And that movement exists. It's ready for you. We don't need them. We need us to go bottoms up, neighbor to neighbor. My journey, your journey are all the same. It's our time. It's time we had one of us. It's time to win back truth, freedom, health, to win back America. Be part of this historic movement, all the way to our victory on November 5th, 2024. If you're an American citizen, pledge your vote now for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the independent candidate for U.S. President. No matter where you live, you can be a part of this. Volunteer as little as 20 minutes a day. Don't delay. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and I approve this message, paid for by Dr. Shiva for President.
All right, everyone, we're back. So that is our campaign video. Become part of the campaign. Couple of things you guys can do. Simple thing everyone can do on the ground. Go get a bumper sticker. You pay about $5 or $10, but you get a lot of other gifts with it. You get a bumper sticker. You get a free membership to truthfreedomhealth.com. You get, and if you donate some more, I actually send you a signed book of System and Revolution. I really want to give back to you guys when you give me something. I cannot take anything for nothing. I find it so appalling that the not so obvious establishment, these scumbags over here, billionaires, they ask you for money. Okay, so it really bothers me because these guys don't work for a living and they make money through exploitation. But anyway, we've talked about the swarm. Let's now today talk about how the swarm issues policies to affect your biology at the molecular systems level that causes you death and disease. These people want to kill you, and they are killing you and your children younger and younger. That's what's going on. And none of them will fight for you. They will take my words, repeat them, they're copycats, and they'll just ask you for donations. But you're looking at someone who will actually win for you. Everyone knows in 2020, I was the first one to put out the vitamin D protocol, quercetin and zinc. I didn't make any money off of that, and we saved millions of people's lives. I was the first one to call out Fauci while Robert Kennedy was pushing lockdowns. Please write that down. While Trump was pushing lockdowns. These people hate you. Forget their words, are all actors. Look at the actions and when they did it. So the action I'm doing right now is to educating you on the real nature of the swarm. And we're going to talk about how their policies are actually killing you. So let's go to this. I hope you get some value out of this and you share it with your children and your families. But ShivaForPresident.com is the only force that can defeat these people. So today is how the swarm kills you. All right. So first we want to just remember that over here, which we already talked about, is the swarm, right? This is what we call the swarm. Here is a swarm. And you can go look at the previous video. And remember, the swarm is not any one people. It's a whole aggregate of people who work together, right? Banks, CEOs, everything we talk about. Now, one of the things we want to remember is that the swarm has a very insidious way that they screw you up. As I talked about, they have, the swarm actually funds, they send a lot of money over to what we call, let's call it the obvious establishment, okay? And when I say the obvious establishment, these are the people we see who are clearly exploiters, right? And this is the Democrats, right? Their party machinery, and the Republicans together. These are the obvious people. And today we call them, you know, the uniparty, okay? And everyone knows these scumbags, they work together. They're the ones who, you know, increase the debt ceiling. They're going to put your children in more debt. And it's obvious they don't give a damn about you. They openly tell you, we want to go bomb these people. We want to kill these people, all right? Like in the Vietnam War, the obvious establishment was people like Barry Goldwater or Kissinger who said, yeah, we need to go kill the Vietnamese people over there. The not so obvious establishment is also funded. And these are the people that I want you to awaken you to, because the swarm will try to use the hammer, like open fascism, to suppress you, but they also have a more insidious way. They have what we call over here, let's call it the not so obvious establishment. And these are the people that are the real criminals. I call them the NSOEs. And these involve what we call the left wing, quote unquote, the left wing, and quote unquote, the right wing. They're the wings of the establishment. Okay, this includes people like AOC, Bernie Sanders. And the latest character that they're rolling out is this guy called Booby freaking Kennedy. I call him Booby, and I have great hatred and disrespect for him because this guy's a scumbag. On the right wing, they have people like Thomas Massie, okay? Rand Paul. And their latest character is Trump, okay? And what these people do on the left and the right, they talk all the right words. So the left wing here will talk the words that we care about workers. Yeah, I'm going to fight for children, right? You know, meanwhile, in the back room, they will always make sure they funnel stuff back to the Democrats, and same with the right wing. They work together. So please understand this. And for those of you who want to really learn this deeply, this physics, please become, go to truthfreedomhealth.com. You don't have to do it for yourself. It's free membership, but you will get the basic knowledge of this physics of the not so obvious establishment, the NSOEs, and the obvious establishment. So we're going to talk about how these people work together to create policies. This is what we're going to talk about, the policies that they create. And these policies literally result in your death. And we're going to walk through the policies that they've done since 1970, 80 till today that have resulted in you prematurely dying, reduced lifespans. And so if you look at these guys passed policies ultimately to make sure, if I were to draw it right here, as I did it, is if this was an axis from 1980 to today, what should be your lifespan should be increasing like this, is it's actually in the United States is going down. That's where it's going. So remember this graph. They are delivering death. They're killing you. That's what they're doing. And we're going to talk about that. So they are passing policies that affect your biology to deliver you death. Now I'm going to walk you through that. But let me give you a little bit of biology, okay? Many of you know that there's a lot of research now occurring in aging. How do people age? And there are different subsystems. So if you take your body is an incredible chemical factory. It's a chemical engineering factory. One of my PhDs is in the field of biological engineering, and we study these molecular pathways. There are many molecular pathways involved in aging. And I'm going to talk to you about 4 of them. These 4 molecular pathways have been identified as pathways that you can manipulate that will help you have healthy aging and, you know, optimal lifespan. Or if you destroy those pathways and you feed them with the wrong triggers, you're going to get what I would say it would be early death, right? And premature aging. So what are those pathways? These are molecular pathways. So let's begin. Let me see if I can do this here. So let's put one of the pathways here. I'm going to call mitochondrial function. Okay, or let me just put it this way, respiration, okay? Mitochondrial respiration. What is a mitochondria? If you look at your cell, it's a structure, it's in every cell, and it has different molecular pathways. And these molecular pathways are basically all different molecules in the mitochondria that are involved in energy production. So every cell in your body produces, it takes in fuel and it produces ATP, and it basically is a fuel source. It's like the factory that powers your cell. And we call that mitochondrial respiration. Well, mitochondrial respiration has a very, very specific molecule that's been discovered called NAD+. Okay? And NAD+ is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. You're not going to be tested on that, but when NAD+ levels are high, okay, I'm going to use this green, your body will then generate what we call healthy aging, okay? Healthy aging, or let's call it peak lifespan. You live long, okay? So let's look at that. When, I'm going to put this here, when this is high, that's what the green means. When it's NAD+ is high, it's at good levels. There's certain nutrients that you can take, and I can do a whole video on that. You're going to have healthy aging and peak lifespan, all right? When the NAD levels, let's say same things, are low, which means suboptimal, guess what happens, right? Let's say they're degraded. You will then have, let's put it over here. Okay, can everyone see that? You will have early death, premature aging. Okay, so there are these molecular pathways in every cell. You have 6 trillion cells. Those cells do mitochondrial respiration. When NAD levels right here are at a high level, let me just fix that, right? You get healthy aging and peak lifespan. When you have low NAD plus levels, you're going to have early death and premature aging, okay? So the question is, what are the triggers that increase NAD plus and what are the triggers that reduce NAD? And you're going to see very shortly that the policies that the swarm passes, Democrats and Republicans, the not so obvious establishment, they're actually killing you. And we're going to walk through the policies that they pass that lead to mitochondrial respiration being suboptimal, that they're actually leading you here. But that's just only one of the pathways. What's another pathway? Another pathway in the world of biology is called autophagy, A-U-T-O-P-H-A-G-Y. What is autophagy? Well, guess what? One of the ways that you can live long is if your cells are allowed to repair themselves. Look, every day you damage your stuff, you get bad things you do, right? And then there's repair mechanisms in your body, cleansing mechanisms, right? Fasting is a thing where you can turn on autophagy when done right. And what autophagy does is that they are autophagy genes, ATGs, right? And when these are turned on, let me use the green again. When the autophagy genes, okay, are turned on, then you also get healthy aging and increased lifespan. So you see that when ATG is high, you get healthy aging and increased lifespan. When autophagy genes, when these same genes, the ATG genes, are down-regulated, as we would say in biology, when they go down, guess what happens? You go down here, okay? So there you go. So autophagy, again, what is autophagy? It's a system of molecular pathways that are all involved here. They all work together. And when you get ATG levels go high, you get healthy aging and peak lifespan. When ATG systems go low, you're going to go to early death and premature aging. All right? So that's a second molecular pathway. Now there's many. Let me do 2 more. The other important pathway that's involved in aging is something called inflammation. And you guys may have heard of this, inflammation. And inflammation, I'm going to do this for just cleaning this up a little bit. Let me take this here and this here, just draw them over here, and this comes over here. Okay, so inflammation has a couple of variables that are involved in it. One is called COX-2, cyclooxygenase 2, COX-2, and CRP, okay, C-reactive protein. These are two inflammatory markers. When you have them high in your body, right, when these, well, let's take the case when they're low, because you want to keep these low or stable. When you have these low and stable in your body, again, use the green, guess what happens? You get good performance, and again, you get healthy aging and peak lifespan. However, when these same COX-2 and CRP levels are high, you end up in this state, okay? You get early death and premature aging. Again, what is inflammation? Inflammation is a system of molecular pathways. I wish I could do this for you, all the pathways, but this is what I map out with our technology at Cytosolve. But again, these pathways, COX-2 and CRP, are low. You want to keep those low. Healthy aging and peak lifespan. When they're high, you get early death and premature aging. I want to cover one more pathway, okay? The next pathway is something called oxidative stress, okay? And the key biomarker of this is something called ROS, okay? I'm going to put it here and here. Now, when ROS levels are high, when ROS levels are low, because this is called reactive oxygen species, you see all these chemical reactions are going on in your body, and your body is producing oxidizing species. That's why people say, hey, take antioxidants, fresh fruits and vegetables. Certain foods will eat up those oxidizing agents. But if you keep your RS levels low, guess what? You again go down this stream, and you get healthy aging and peak lifespan. If your RS levels are high, you end up over here. Okay? So just let's review this. So you have, again, these are also, just to be clear, these are, again, systems of molecular pathways. That's what these circles and lines represent. There's all these molecular reactions taking place, okay? So we have mitochondrial respiration, NAD levels high, you get healthy aging. Autophagy, ATG levels high, you get healthy aging. Inflammation, you keep COX-2 and CRP low, you get healthy aging. Oxidative stress, you keep ROS, reactive oxygen species low, you get healthy aging. Same thing, mitochondrial respiration, NAD levels are low, you're going to early death and premature aging. Autophagy, ATG levels low, premature death and early aging. COX-2 and CRP are high, early death and aging. And ROS, reactive oxygen species level high, early death and aging. So anyway, you've just learned the molecular pathways. There are others, but if you want to start doing your own research, you can use this as a framework. Now, you would think that your politicians that you elect, or these guys that get all this publicity and all the talking heads who push them would be concerned, would be wanting to have you live long and prosper, but they don't. They actually, look at what's going on right here. Since 1980 till today, the US lifespan is going downwards. Again, to repeat, your children are going to die younger than you. Their lifespans are going to be younger than you, less than yours to be specific. So how is this happening? Well, what are the triggers that result in early death and premature aging? Okay, what are those triggers? What are the triggers that result in this? So what I'm going to walk you through is, let's sort of take it right here. I'm going to put one circle right here. I'm going to do 3 more here. Okay. Now, what are these circles? These are called triggers. Okay, one of the triggers you may have already heard of is called stress. Okay, stress is one of them. Okay, obesity, another one. What's another trigger? Okay, loneliness. Loneliness. Okay, what's another trigger? Environmental. Mental. And noise. This is a big deal. A recent research just came out. Noise pollution. So both environmental toxins, and actual noise. So environmental and noise pollution, okay? Next is sedentary lifestyle. That means not exercising, not working physically, sedentary lifestyle. Next is depression. And then we have the big one, poor nutrition. So let's review these. These are what I call triggers: stress, obesity, loneliness, environmental noise and pollution, sedentary lifestyle, depression, poor nutrition. Now, what these actually do, so stress, interesting enough, if I were to call this one, just for my own marking, the way this is done, yeah. So if I call this 1, 2, 3, 4, what you'll see is that stress affects all 4. So stress will affect this, stress will affect this, autophagy in a negative way, stress will affect inflammation, and stress will affect oxidative stress. So when you're stressed out, you're headed towards early death and premature aging, because stress will reduce NAD levels, stress will reduce ATG levels, stress increases inflammatory markers, and stress increases ROS. That's just stress. It hits all of them. Let's look at obesity. Obesity is unfortunate, but obesity affects mitochondrial respiration. Obesity will affect inflammation. Obesity will affect oxidative stress. You see, it doesn't affect autophagy as much, but it does affect all of those other 3 states. Loneliness. Loneliness is a molecule. You can go find the video I did on that. But loneliness will affect inflammation, and loneliness will affect oxidative stress. It has been shown that when you are lonely and isolated, your body will actually turn on genes which produce inflammatory markers. Now, let's look at noise pollution, environmental and noise pollution, okay? This affects mitochondrial respiration. It affects inflammation. It affects oxidative stress, okay? Sedentary lifestyle. This is where you're just sitting around like a couch potato or just on the internet all day. Well, this is going to affect inflammation, and it's also going to affect oxidative stress. Depression. Depression affects mitochondrial respiration, and it also affects inflammation, okay? And then finally, poor nutrition, it affects everything, okay? Poor nutrition is going to affect all of these things. Okay, so what you see here is stress, obesity, loneliness, environmental noise, sedentary lifestyle, depression, poor nutrition, all affect all of these subsystems. All right, so there we go. Now you understand the triggers. So these are triggers. These are what I call molecular pathways. Okay? These triggers affect your chemical reactions in your body. Now the question is, what causes these triggers to take place? Okay? What results in these triggers? What policies? So let's look at them. So now I'm going to look at policies. So these are actually policies that the swarm instituted that affect this. So let's, again, I'm going to draw a couple of circles here. 1, 2, let's put 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. What are these policies? Number 1, there was a policy that was passed called lockdowns. Everyone remember that? Lockdowns. And this was done by both Democrats and Republicans. Again, please write this down so you don't get bamboozled by the not-so-obvious establishment. Robert Booby effing Kennedy promoted lockdowns lock, step, and barrel with Fauci in March of 2020. While I was writing letters to Trump, doing many, many videos on how lockdowns create loneliness that cause you death and disease, Booby effing Kennedy was promoting lockdowns. This guy is a scam artist. He's a con artist, like all the Kennedys. Trump also promoted lockdowns. So what did these lockdowns do? So the swarm, Republican and Democrat, both promoted policies of lockdowns. Well, what did lockdowns do? Lockdowns, in fact, if I label these as A, B, these are triggers, C, D, E, F, A to G triggers, except for E and G, okay? Lockdowns affected stress, they affected obesity, they got people lonely, right? They, let me see, sorry. They affected over here sedentary lifestyle, they affected people getting depressed, and there you go, okay? So they may have affected others, but these are the ones we definitely know they affected. So when they locked down people, they got stressed out, they got obese, they got lonely, they became sedentary, and they became depressed. And that turned on these molecular pathways, which cause early death and premature aging. So again, Robert fucking Kennedy, sorry, shouldn't use that non-scientific term, but it actually is scientific, isn't it? It's quite a scientific term, okay? And the doofus Trump, both Republican and Democrat. So here, red, okay? It should be red and blue, both supported lockdowns, okay? They killed people. Booby effing Kennedy and Trump, Republican and Democrat, they killed people. All right, so don't think suddenly, don't listen to their words. Look at what they did. They supported lockdowns. That was their action. What was the second thing these guys did, okay? There was an act that was passed, Monsanto Protection Act. Protection Act. And people like, we should put Elizabeth Warren over here too. She's part of the left wing who acts like she's fighting for you. Elizabeth, the fake Indian Elizabeth Warren, okay? And Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats and Republicans, all of the people who supported Trump and Republicans supported the Monsanto Protection Act. Again, to be very clear, Booby effing Kennedy endorsed Hillary, the whore, the witch Clinton, who supported the Monsanto Protection Act, is lockstep and barrel with Monsanto. And Kennedy endorsed Hillary Clinton, not once, not twice, but in 2015, she's the one who brought in one of the leaders of Monsanto to help with her campaign. And he still endorsed her in 2016. Go look it up. So how can, the words don't matter. It was this policy which was passed. Guess what this policy did? This policy affected D, which is this, environmental pollution. It also affected poor nutrition. As I talked about in my video that I did research on back in 2013 to 2016, Monsanto has destroyed the food. The food has less nutritive value, and it obviously has destroyed farmers in this country too, okay? Monsanto Protection Act, supported by both Democrat and Republican. I should probably, actually this is coming right from here. Let me do it over here. Again, Democrat and Republican. Don't let these guys get away. They're all in cahoots. Stop voting for them. Shiva for president and the movement for truth, freedom, health is the only force that can change this. And you won't get them doing this type of analysis because they don't want you to know this, because they know once you know this, you'll find out that they're killing you, okay? Let's go to the next one. What else did they do? Okay, I've done a video on GPOs, okay? GPOs and PBMs, group purchasing organizations. And PBMs, this was the foundation of what Democrats and Republicans did, okay, which created what we call the healthcare system. Healthcare, which later became Obamacare, okay, which still exists, by the way. Nothing was done to this. GPOs and PBMs were those middlemen which raised the healthcare costs so high that no one can afford high-quality healthcare. Well, what has this done? What do the GPOs and PBMs have done? Well, they've created massive stress to people because no one knows if they can afford their health care, right? And the other thing that they've done is they've resulted in massively poor nutrition because you go to a hospital, you get junk. It's not about promoting healthy nutrition. Again, this was passed starting in the 1970s by both Democrats and Republicans. And none of them will talk about it. Trump won't talk about it. Booby F and Kennedy won't talk about it. The obvious and not so obvious establishment won't talk about it because they created GPOs and PBMs and allowed them to collude with hospitals and insurance companies to keep the cost of healthcare high. And that causes all of these other triggers. Let's go to the next one. Income inequality. Income inequality. This is a big one. Everyone knows, as we've shared, not everyone, because of our movement for truth, freedom, and health, during the 1900s and starting in the 1900s, in fact, late 1800s, all the way up to the 1940s, there was a massive movement, organic, bottoms-up movement that scared the shit out of the establishment. Those bottoms up movements, those very powerful movements and in fact, there were 11,000 strikes during that period, all the way up until 1970. Nearly 100 million people were on the streets fighting for their rights. And during that period of 1900 to 1940, as the American pie expanded, everyone's salaries grew. There wasn't this income disparity. After 1970, the number of organized labor movements, real organized labor, has gone down. There's only been 900 strikes. And during 1970 to today, as the American pie grew, we created two American pies. In fact, $50 trillion of wealth got transferred from the from everyday people down back to the swarm. So think about that. As people stopped fighting, there became more and more income inequality. They don't want a bottoms-up movement, ladies and gentlemen. And this income inequality has been supported by the Uniparty and particularly the left and the right. People like Robert Kennedy or Bernie Sanders is a couch potato. Robert Kennedy think about this, he lives in Malibu, flies Falcons. This is what the bougie bourgeois do in the Middle East. And yet he's trying to say he understands the middle class. Bullshit. So please recognize that he is responsible for income inequality, the left and the right. And Trump, obviously, he's going to charge you $250 million to go to Mar-a-Lago to eat a burger, okay? So income inequality has affected stress. It's affected obesity. It's affected loneliness. It's affected people, environmental noise pollution. People in low income, can't get, they don't get to live in nice, serene environments, sedentary lifestyle, depression, and poor nutrition. Income inequality is a big, big deal. It has not been at all changed in spite of both of these parties talking about it. Now, let's go to factory farming. Factory farming, right? We're not talking about local farming. We're talking about taking all these animals and whatever, injecting them with pesticides, right? Antibiotics, steroids. Well, this has led to some significant things. It's led to obesity, right? It's led to serious environmental pollution and poor nutrition. Again, remember, these triggers affect your molecular mechanisms, leading you to early death and premature aging. Next thing, let's look at wars. Let's be very specific. Imperialist wars. We're not fighting for freedom. We're talking about imperialist wars where the elites, the swarm, send young people who barely have $400 in their bank account to go fight their wars. Well, what do imperialist wars get us? Well, first of all, they get us obviously stress. They create loneliness. People come back from wars and they're very, very depressed, right? And then finally, it leads to also depression, all right? And then finally, let's end with educational policies. We have educational policies starting in the 1970s where teachers could no longer decide what was right in their local school environments. Everything was imposed top down by the Department of Education. The bougie people, they get to go to nice private schools, do Montessori and all that, but everyday people in the public school systems get one-size-fits-all education. And what this has resulted in is obviously, right, stress. It's resulted in sedentary lifestyles. I mean, they've eliminated classes, gym classes, all sorts of stuff. Kids don't get to play. And then finally, poor nutrition. So let me just make it clear, this has been brought to you by Republicans, that's a red, right? And this has been brought to you by Democrats, same people. So just consider what I'm saying here. Lockdowns, Trump and Kennedy both supported them. Monsanto Protection Act, people like Elizabeth Warren and Republicans supported them. GPOs and PBMs, Democrat and Republican. By the way, when you look at this, all of these policies were promoted by 90% of the Ds and 90% of the Rs, depending on, sorry, let me put it this way, 90% of the Rs in red and 90% of the Ds, okay?
You forgot the blue there.
What's that, John?
You got the blue there.
Where? Sorry, thank you. John, the blue there. Thank you. Okay, we got the blue there. All right, so let's step back and look at this. At the end level, John, you can take a nice shot of this and you can just look at this whole thing, right? What do you see here? The swarm, let's go back. We just talked to you who the swarm was. You can go look at the swarm video. This swarm, a small set of elites who have their entire set of people from the Joe Rogans to the Kennedys to the Trumps to the big pharma. They're all one big family. They literally live together. They bang each other. Their children go to the same schools. They all hug and hang out with each other. Kennedy made sure when all of them came to his home, they all had to be jabbed with the mRNA vaccine. Then he blames his wife. What kind of man is this guy? Okay? But this swarm is the one that institutes these policies among the 8 billion people to cause death and destruction. They want you to die early. Shiva for President and our campaign is the only one that will expose this kind of stuff and give you a solution how we live long and prosper. This swarm, as we just went through, pumps a lot of money. They pump a lot of money because it's massive corruption to the obvious establishment, Democrats and Republicans, a uniparty, and the not so obvious establishment. Do you think if Trump or Booby F and Kennedy were real threats, they would be made invisible? Guys like me and our movement are real threats. When someone's a real threat, they make them invisible. They don't give them any media attention. So wake up to that. Both of these groups have supported lockdowns, Monsanto Protection Act, GPOs and PBMs, income inequality, factory farming, imperialist wars, and educational policies. This has resulted in stress, obesity, loneliness, environmental and noise pollution, sedentary lifestyle, depression, and poor nutrition. This has resulted at the molecular level. You see, policies affecting biology. At the molecular level, NAD levels are low, right? In mitochondrial respiration, you die early. Autophagy or ATG genes levels are low. You die early, premature aging. Your COX-2 and CRP levels are high. Early death and premature aging. Reactive oxygen species are high. Early death and premature aging. The Shiva for President campaign and the Movement for Truth, Freedom, Health will completely obliterate this because we are going to shatter the storm. How are we going to do that? By you. By you recognizing that you need one of you, guys like me, guys like Malcolm X, guys like you, and ladies and gentlemen like you, all people, rising up. And when we have a bottoms-up movement, we shatter the storm. And guess what? We focus on increasing NAD+. And that happens when we build community, right? When we have proper nutrition. Autophagy, ATG levels go up. Inflammation goes down. Oxidative stress goes down. And we now have healthy aging and a peak lifespan. It's that simple. The policies affect your biology. Policy to biology. And that is how we're going to win. We're not going to win by Booby F and Kennedy or Trump. They're making money off you. Please stop giving money to these fools. Please. Remember, Booby F and Kennedy, go look at the video on rfkexposed.com. He said, I want vaccine, full vaccination of all Americans. Guy's nuts. I mean, the guy, this is not some vaccine injury. This is a drug addict. That's why he speaks like that. Okay? And that guy then goes on in the same video to explain how he's going to get safe vaccines from this corrupt swarm. Now, anyone believing this must recognize they probably have some mitochondrial dysfunction and autophagy issues and inflammation, oxidative stress in their brain. That's what they're doing. They make you dumb, so you think this guy's your fighter. He isn't. So please recognize that the good news is you have a movement, and that's a movement for truth, freedom, and health. You have a real candidate, one of you. So simple thing I ask you to do, go to shivaforpresident.com, get a bumper sticker, put it on the back left window of your car. One bumper sticker seen by 100,000 people every day. That's how we overcome their shadow banning. The future is offline. And those of you, when you donate, become also a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior. We need to get on the ballot in every state. That itself is going to be a revolutionary event, us getting on the ballot. They do not want independents getting on the ballot. They want you moaning, oh, an independent can't win. And they want you voting for the lesser of two evils. You don't have to do that. We must build the movement for truth, freedom, health. We must win this. We must shatter the swarm, and we must get people living long with peak lifespans. We have the plan. It's all up to you. Thank you, everyone. I wish you all a good weekend. And wherever you are, have a good night, have a good morning, have a good afternoon. Be well. Thank you.